Hello, this is Flurry Moon. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we will be continuing this little nostalgia kick I've been on recently by going over some of my favorite forgotten and discontinued toy lines of the 2000s and the 2010s. Unlike the iconic franchises we all know, like Littlest Pet Shop, My Little Pony, Barbie, Hot Wheels, Legos, etc., the toy lines we will be discussing today were pretty short-lived and honestly have faded into obscurity. You may recognize more than others in this video, but I just wanted to shine a light back on these toys that made our childhoods so magical. Let's get right into it. Aquapets. We're starting off pretty strong with these electronic and interactive toys called Aquapets. Let's get into these oddly shaped little guys. Originally released in Japan by Sega Toys in 2003 and named Puku Puku Angel, the franchise started with 9 characters. Some of these include, I'm gonna try my best here, Kirei-chan, a white creature with pink ears, red hands, and a star design on her head with the cutest eyes I've ever seen. I love her, give me 14 of them right now. Aqua-chan, a blue creature with a little cinnamon roll looking thing on his head. And Olive-chan, the green angel with little leaf looking things on the sides of his head. I'm clearly great at explaining these things. So how exactly did these toys work? Well, the unique figure is held up by 2 strings in a chamber of water. It would sing and dance in response to the buttons and your voice. It was described at the time to be like a non-digital Tamagotchi, and some of these are really cute. In 2004, the toy company Wild Planet would acquire the rights to these 3 characters, and they would be featured in the US, Europe, and Canada under the name Aquapets. The characters were renamed Puku, Miku, and Tu, and were accompanied by many other Aquapet originals. These toys were pretty successful, and many new waves, special editions, and sub-series were released from 2004 to 2006. Some notable sets include the Toys R Us exclusive Miku and Puku Buddy Pack from 2007, featuring a recolor of both characters in a shimmery paint style. The limited edition eBay exclusive Kazu, with each toy being numbered. Another buddy pack featuring translucent colored versions of Dolly and Fabu in celebration of Easter, and a jumbo version of Cadet who, instead of the typical 4 inches, was 7 inches tall. The 2 Aquapet spin-off series were released in 2005 called Dino-mites and Liquifreaks. These were definitely trying to advertise to boys at the time, Dino-mites having a prehistoric dinosaur theme and Liquifreaks leaning into the gross, slimy, mad scientist vibe. This was such a thing in the 2000s. Like, everything for boys was like, slime, green. However, the franchise was discontinued in 2007. Not only that, but they were announced to be replaced by Purse Pals. I can barely find any information on Purse Pals besides a few eBay listings. I have no idea how well these toys did in comparison to Aquapets, but probably not that much better since I can't find anything about them. However, they were honestly really cute, and I wouldn't mind looking deeper into Purse Pals, so let me know in the comments if any of you guys remember these. Anyway, this may seem like the end, but Aquapets were revived in 2011. This wave is known as Generation 2, and while many pets were reused for this reboot, the entire design of the chamber is completely different. This was probably for the best because I'm honestly a little surprised the original designs weren't immediately taken off shelves, because like, well, you get it. The new teardrop shape is not only less uncomfortable looking, but just overall a better design idea in my opinion. They even released little keychain versions, and I'm obsessed. I would love to get my hands on one of these. I think there are some really cute ones, but unfortunately, these little guys do not stand the test of time. Due to the gimmick of these toys, the liquid over time would leak, evaporate, and worst of all, discolor. Any picture I've seen, at least the Generation 1 Aquapets from the mid-2000s, feature the poor Aquapet floating in a horrifying, muddy, and upsetting pool of whatever the hell that is. Free them. Oh my god. There was also zero way to properly clean or refill these toys, so they definitely weren't made with aging in mind. However, the 2011 reboot pets do have a way to be drained and refilled, but it honestly looks like a hassle, and I can unfortunately see why these were discontinued yet again. Either way, many people have very fond memories of Aquapets, and although they may be gone, they will never be forgotten. Or maybe they will be because they're in this video, but that's okay. Anyway, Squinkies. We mentioned Squinkies in my Lost Media video, and you guys seem to really like that segment, so I thought it would be cool to just really get into the franchise. Squinkies are tiny little rubber figures released by Blip Toys in 2010. The toys came in packs and sets of little vending machine-like balls, with the surprise inside being Squinkies. This idea, thought up by co-creator Bill Nichols after seeing how successful vending machine toys were in Walmart's Japanese division, proved to be a hit when Squinkies hit the shelves. Although some sets included figures you could see through the containers, some balls were made with more of a matte finish, so it was harder to see exactly what Squinky you were going to get, really leaning into the element of surprise. This further simulated the act of getting a surprise mystery toy in a gumball machine. Not only were there animals, but there were little people as well, including babies, little girls with different outfits, and the wedding Squinky, like the bride, who I have, by the way. Here she is, ready for her big day. Da, 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 da. She's actually kind of hard to squish. The franchise even came out with bracelets where you could place your Squinkies, switch them out, and wear them on rings as well. The set I remember the most was the salon-inspired gumball machine, which I actually have. This was it, and it actually came with Squinkies with hair, but you would put the little coins in and then turn it, and one of them would come down. Wow, that's loud. Oh no, he's stuck. There's a little chair with a mirror here, and these ones had hair. Squinkies had some major collaborations during its run, including Barbie, Toy Story, Hello Kitty, Disney Princesses, Cars, and Marvel. A major recurring theme in this video is that everything we talk about most of the time has a boy version spinoff. We're gonna be seeing a lot of that in this video. Squinkies' take on that was Zinkies. Why do I hate that? Now this part is a little confusing because Zinkies was actually a name given to another subseries of Squinkies. Stay with me. And they were just like Squinkies, but smaller and less detailed. I'm not really sure why they did this because Squinkies, as you just saw, are already very small. So making them even smaller and giving them a new name, I don't really see the point. However, there are some really cute and memorable sets that came from Zinkies, not the boy version, like the Snug as a Bug Sunflower set, the Magic Secrets Flower Pot, and the Sea Coral playset. Anyway, the name Zinkies was also given to the boy line. This line was actually split into 3 different colors, one for each army. Red was given to the Space Alliance, green to the military crew, and gray to Robot Force. Not only that, but Squinkies got their own DS game in April of 2011, which if you guys saw my Lost Media video, you know my history with that. It seems like this franchise was extremely Let's try that again. Seems like this franchise was extremely successful in its time in production, even winning 2011's Toy of the Year in the girl category. But I was shocked to read that Squinkies were discontinued in 2011, just 1 year after hitting shelves. I don't know why, but I feel like I remember them lasting way longer than that, and frankly, it doesn't make any sense to me. In fact, one of its last releases was a collaboration with Pixar, so clearly they were still doing pretty well. When I looked this up to see if I could get any answers, even AI Overview was like, sorry girl, I don't know what to tell you. And that thing will tell you it's safe to eat rocks every day. So that's how you know nobody really knows why. The only reason that I saw was that it was a choking hazard. And okay, I guess that's valid. But one, we always knew they were small. And second of all, I mean, Polly Pockets were around for ever, and those little bitches were small as hell. I mean, it's definitely valid they are very small, but seems weird to me. I guess the debate doesn't really matter because Squinkies were actually brought back last year with the Squinkies original pack and the Cupcake Surprise Bake Shop playset. Of course, I caved and bought some of the originals, and I was very excited, and they are just as adorable and squishy as they once were. So there's that. My E-Pets. This will be a shorter entry, and I honestly debated saving this for a Lost Media video, which I might still do in the future, but I feel like this franchise is the epitome of forgotten toy lines, so I just can't bring myself to exclude it from this video. Rescue Pets, or My E-Pets, was a Webkinz-like toy line that allowed kids to take home their plushies, enter their access code, and play online as their pet with minigames, decorating, and overall, caring for their animal. The website ran from 2007 to 2012 when it was shut down. The plushie's design was pretty unique at the time, with their signature sad eye look, basically saying, "Please buy me, I want a home," sad face. Literally puppy dog eyes. I am almost positive I had the yellow dog, which was kind of the mascot of the franchise. And this was buried so deep in my memory until I saw one of those TikToks that was like 2000s toys I barely remember slideshow things, which actually inspired me to make this video. And I was just blown away. Like, it was just something so forgotten. Like, I had to talk about it. The website is pretty much currently lost media, but there are screen recordings of gameplay on YouTube. Of course, the toys are no longer being sold, but you can find listings on eBay or Mercari. I would love to find my old golden retriever, but I feel like if I had it, I would have seen it throughout the years, and I haven't seen these things in years. Rescue Pets didn't only have the My E-Pets line, they also released the Swim to Me puppy in 2008, and I vividly remember this commercial, and I wanted that little bitch so bad, but I feel like I might have had it. I don't know, either that or I knew someone who had him. Either way, I was obsessed. I thought this thing was like the newest technology. Genuinely seeing this commercial sent like a shockwave through my brain. This is such a niche franchise, and I would be surprised if any of you remember this. So please let me know in the comments if you have any memory of My E-Pets or Rescue Pets in general. Moving on. Pixos or Aquadots. So I thought this segment was gonna be just like a fun, nostalgic walk down memory lane, as I loved these toys, but this is actually gonna be a wild ride, so stick with me. Now, I remember these toys as Pixos, but depending on where you live, there are like freaking 10 different names for these things, okay? So we're mostly gonna be calling them Aquadots and Pixos, okay? Aquadots were these little beads that you would place on a mat, making whatever designs or characters you'd like. You would then spray the beads with water and they would stick together, creating a little 2D figure. These little things were a big hit. That was until they were recalled in 2007. Now, you're probably thinking, duh, this was clearly a choking hazard situation, but not quite. Before we get into that, I would love to make a separate video all about recalled toys. This video is mostly just about quietly discontinued toys, but this is a little sneak peek into the world of toys that were taken away because they were dangerous. But I thought it also fit into this video, so let's keep going. The recall first began in Australia when a 2-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl fell seriously ill after ingesting large amounts of the beads. Now, of course, it is dangerous to swallow large amounts of anything that isn't edible, especially toys, but this is not like that. It was discovered that Aquadots, after being ingested, acted as a date drug. I don't know if that's the correct term for it anymore. Please let me know what people call them now, because I have no idea. GHB, or gamma hydroxybutyric acid, I hope I said that right, is a depressant drug that is also known as liquid ecstasy. Basically, of course, this is a very dangerous drug that can cause unconsciousness, seizures, overdose, and even death. So how did GHB find its way in a kid's toy? I'm not a freaking scientist or whatever, so I'm gonna try my very best to explain this, but anyone who actually knows what they're talking about, please let me know in the comments. The toy itself didn't have GHB in it. What happened was, Aquadots were originally supposed to contain a non-toxic plasticizer. This would be used to create flexibility and reduce friction. However, turns out the Wang Qi product factory located in China had shipped out some of the Aquadots with a cheap chemical instead of the safe plasticizer that the designers had intended, which when ingested metabolizes into the sedative GHB. Basically, the factory wanted to go the cheap route and ended up endangering children everywhere. Supposedly, no long-term effects were reported. Everyone was okay in the long run, but that is really scary. So anyway, back to the toy itself. So after all this, in North America, Aquadots were renamed Pixos. This was meant to differentiate the dangerous and toxic version from the new safe toys. No more recalls, let's just talk about Pixos. The premise is exactly the same as it was before, but there were some pretty cool sets, so I'd like to go over them. The classic Pixos starter kit, the ultimate design station, the Super Studio, and my all-time favorite, Pixos. Pixos were the girl-marketed sub-series of Pixos, and they had me. They had me. The spin-off featured a bunch of little Polly Pocket-like dolls that you could take apart, swapping the shoes, pants, and tops. Then you'd spray them with water and they would stay together. Then you'd pull out the Pixos runway, where you would then use regular Pixos to create bags, jewelry, pets, and all sorts of accessories for your little dolls. I low-key actually want these right now. I'm pretty positive I had the runway set, but they also came out with more cool sets, like the backyard party, design a pet shop, design a luxury loft, and many more. This is a spin-off that I actually see as pretty much up there with the original, since I think it really added to the franchise, and isn't just like a lazy girl version with pink flowers slapped onto it. Let me know what you guys think. Furberries. This will be another shorter entry since this wasn't the biggest franchise, but they are just so nostalgic to me, so I'm gonna talk about them whether you like it or not. We're moving back to 2000s plushies with Furberries. Furberries released in 2007 were animals that would roll up into balls, presenting themselves as fruits, and were even fruit scented based on which one you had. I'm pretty sure I had the pink strawberry dog, and my little brother had the grape cat, I think. We loved them, and we would just roll them around all the time. We were pretty easily entertained, as some people thought the gimmick wore off pretty quickly, but not in my house. Those bitches were a big hit. The original release featured the main 6 pets, including the strawberry and lemon dogs, the tangerine and grape cats, and the cherry and blueberry bear cubs. Later releases debuted the peach cub, this blue and pink one that I, for the life of me, can't figure out what frickin' fruit they are, a strawberry cat, and they even released Furberry babies. I had no idea this was even a thing, but of course they're adorable. You can never go wrong with making baby things, and we will see a lot of that later. Furberries even got their own DVD short film called The Furberries The Rainbow Tree Movie. Okay guys, so I looked up the Furberries movie because I wanted to see what it was all about, and genuinely this is like the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life, so prepare yourself.
What's wrong? I don't know if I'll make new friends. Lily, I'm shy too.
Anyway, I can't really find a lot of information on when this series was discontinued, but I can't find too much about them after 2009, so I think it's fair to say it was just quietly retired. Zoobles. We are now jumping back to 2011 with Zoobles. Something I did not know about these little guys, they were actually made to be the girl version of Bakugan. Created by Spin Master, the creatures were in the form of spheres that would pop open when placed on the magnetic stands called Happy-Tats. The designs were very busy and whimsical, which I think was kind of a trend at this time. I had a few of these. I believe they were the McDonald's ones because I don't remember having to put them on something to open. I just remember pressing a button and they would open. Some notable packs and sets include the special edition Fuzzy and Shiny Pets, the exclusive Target Triplet playset, and the Treehouse playset. I just said playset so much. And as I mentioned earlier, they also got their own McDonald's toys, which were very similar to the originals, except, like I said, they just open differently. But that's pretty standard for McDonald's toys to not work as the originals do. Something very interesting about this franchise is that its Japan release was insanely different and low-key like switched up the lore. Released by Sega Toys in March of 2011, it seems that the original wildlife and forest themes were ditched for a candy and sweets aesthetic. I was actually surprised going into this video realizing how much better I like this version than the original. In my opinion, I feel like the sweets theme really translates well to the toys. In the more simple packaging makes the Zoobles pop instead of blending in with the background. I don't know, that's just a personal opinion though. The overseas success didn't stop there, because a Zoobles anime was even adapted. This was originally released in Korea with a Japan dub following about a year later. The series revolved around the main 3 Zoobles, Chevy, Koron, and Panky, as they get into shenanigans and learn about friendship and misadventures, basically. Every cartoon ever for kids. Of course, I don't know for sure because from what I can tell, there is no English sub anywhere. Or maybe there is and I just couldn't find it. So let me know if you guys find some of that because I would love to watch this. I think it looks so cute. I love the designs, honestly. I really do wish the Japan version got a US release because I am personally not the biggest fan of the overly busy design that we got. As I mentioned earlier, I feel like this was kind of the trend at the time, especially Littlest Pet Shop rebranding to whatever the fuck this is. I think the franchise would have lasted longer than a year if they had simplified the aesthetic and maybe even leaned more into the Candyland theme that Japan did. This, again, is just my own personal opinion, and I really do like Zoobles. Either way, Zoobles were discontinued in 2012, but actually made a comeback in 2022. This time, the franchise took the more modern, social media-inspired approach. They also introduced human-like Zoobles with stylish looks and experimental makeup looks. The animals also took a more pink and sparkly approach as opposed to their former rainforest-like palette. Although I don't really care for the humanoid Zoobles, I actually like the new designs for the Zoobles themselves. Typically, rebrands and redesigns are not something I'm super fond of, but I think they're close enough to the original that I don't really see a problem. Once again, what do you guys think? I feel like I end every segment with what do you guys think? Silly bands. How could I make this video and not talk about silly bands? These things went crazy at my school, to the point where I'm pretty sure they were permanently banned. Silly bands were originally sold online in 2008 and were produced by a small company in Ohio called BCP Import LLC. Catchy name. Their inspiration came from a few Japanese designers who reshaped rubber bands into cute animals to promote sustainability and not dispose of them so quickly. That's actually a really nice idea. The owner of the Toledo-based company actually encountered these toys on a business trip and thought it would be a good idea for a kids' accessory toy line if made bigger and thicker. Thus, silly bands were born. So I came across a new article about this whole thing, so I just wanted to share what I had learned. The creator of Silly Bands, although he never claimed to create this idea of making rubber bands into whimsical designs, he did claim, or probably believe, that his were very different because they were meant to be worn, and they were bigger and thicker and more of a kid's toy rather than what he thought was an office supply from the original Japanese designers. And he said those rubber bands were never to be worn. However, there is proof that people had been wearing those, and he also claimed to have no idea who Passkey Designs were, who were the original creators, Yumiko Ohashi and Masanar Haneda. I think he just really wanted to drive home the idea that his silly bands were way different than anything that was made before, but it's really not. Like, it's just kind of a similar thing. I don't know. There's a little bit of confusion there. They were sold in packs with themes like animals and princesses, and even released major collaborations with SpongeBob, Barbie, Hello Kitty, Marvel, Angry Birds, Dora, and get this, the Kardashians. I would be shook if I, as like a 10-year-old, was sitting there with my lousy princess silly band and a baddie walks by with a Kim K on her wrist. Not just that, but there was a Justin Bieber collaboration, which I feel like kind of makes more sense because wasn't he like 15, 16 at the time? The franchise grew insanely fast due to its simple cost and fairly cheap pricing, a 12-pack coming to $2.50 and a 24-pack coming to $5. Silly Bands was also subject to collecting and trading, which also contributed to its massive success. The trading also got pretty out of hand, with teachers banning them from the classrooms due to distracted students. This wasn't the only reason they were banned in schools, a major one being kind of a massive safety hazard. As collections grew bigger, more and more children were wearing more and more silly bands on their wrists. Ultimately, in some cases, cutting off their circulation. I remember one of my teachers had to give us a talk because she saw a kid walking down the hallway with his whole arm purple. And that personally did it for me. I was scared shitless after that. I also, a little off topic, but I remember me and my friend playing with our silly bands at recess, and for some reason we were throwing them into the air and trying to catch them. And I threw one and she accidentally punched me in the face trying to get it. This resulted in me getting a bloody lip. It was fine though because it was my first bloody lip, so I thought I was like the
coolest bitch in town.
Anyway, the arm injuries were pretty common at this time, so they were pretty much banned in most classrooms and probably the entire schools too. You may be surprised to hear that Silly Bandz were actually never discontinued. Despite the fad dying down pretty quickly, Silly Bandz are still being sold online, and I actually came across this exclusive Sabrina pink gingerbread advent calendar, which I'm not sure Sabrina Carpenter even knows about, since it doesn't say her full name anywhere, but it is clearly inspired by her, so not sure what's up with that, but oh well. Lalaloopsy. Probably the longest running franchise we'll talk about today is Lalaloopsy. Initially named Bitty Buttons, but quickly renamed due to a trademark dispute, the toys were released in 2010, and thank you Wikipedia for reminding me of this, grew massively popular during the holiday season. And this is why I so vividly remember wanting a Lalaloopsy for Christmas. Lalaloopsies are designed to replicate rag dolls, but are made from plastic instead. Their whimsical fashion sense mixes that retro rag doll look with a modern twist. And this resonated with girls everywhere. There were many characters to choose from, each coming with their own special pet. The original 8 Lalaloopsies consisted of Pillow Featherbed, Bee Spells a Lot, Jewel Sparkles, Crumbs Sugar Cookie, Dot Starlight, Peanut Big Top, Mittens Fluffin' Stuff, and Spot Splatter Splash. I had Jewel Sparkles and I think Crumbs Sugar Cookie, but I'm not too sure about that one. Clearly, I just love pink bitches. Later releases included more fun and creative designs, even debuting dolls inspired by fairy tales, such as Alice in Lalaloopsy Land, Cinder Slippers, Pete R. Can Fly. That one makes me laugh every time. And Scarlet Riding Hood. They even came out with mini dolls, and I personally like these just as much, if not more, than the regular size dolls. There are tons of spin-off toys for this franchise, so stay with me. Lalaloopsy Littles, featuring our favorite characters as babies, but they couldn't stop at babies. They had to give us newborns as well. Lalaloopsy, which were flimsier with wackier proportions that even got its own movie. Fairies, mermaids, and even ponies were included, and of course, the ponies got their own Lalaloopsy variant as well, because of course. Lalaloopsy Girls are the characters all grown up, and before you ask, of course, the spinoff got a movie as well. Lalaloopsy workshop dolls that had detachable limbs that you could switch out with other dolls, kind of like the Pixos we mentioned earlier. Pet Pals, which are exactly what they sound like, and I love the monkey. I think he's so funny. Lalaloopsy also got its own Nintendo game in 2011, and their own Netflix show in 2016 called We're Lalaloopsy. The franchise went from 2010 to 2018 when they went on hiatus. In 2021, new dolls were announced in celebration of Lalaloopsy's 10-year anniversary. They also added silly hair dolls. Although they were brought back, they were only in stores for a short amount of time, but you can still buy some of the dolls from Amazon, and I'm totally not gonna ask for one for Christmas, by the way. Zhu Zhu Pets. I'd like to end this video with one of my favorite short-lived, but we'll get there, franchises from the 2010s, Zhu Zhu Pets. We talked about Zhu Zhu Pets in my Lost Media video. Sorry I mentioned that freaking video so much, you guys. But I thought it would be fun to go deeper into it. These toys, originally named Go-Go Pets, were initially released in 2009 by Sepia LLC. Similarly to Lalaloopsy, this franchise quickly grew in popularity and demand, resulting in many spin-offs and variants. Zhu Zhu Pets are best described as plush robotic hamsters that can actually zoom around when you press the button on their back, and they made cute little hamster noises when you press their noses. I love it. This is the one I always wanted as a kid, but it was always freaking sold out because all the pink bitches got them before me. Their very first release, or Series 1, debuted Mr. Squiggles, Pipsqueak, Num Nums, and Chunk. Soon after that came Scoodles, Jilly, Nugget, and Winky. These are the zoos I remember best because I was right there at the very beginning, waiting to get my grimy little hands on those things. The franchise didn't stop at hamsters though. Many different kinds of animals were produced, such as bunnies, squirrels, and even dogs and cats. Their marketing was honestly kind of genius, selling sets that included hamster tubes for the zoos to run through, cars they can basically drive around, the pizzeria set where your hamster can literally drive around delivering pizza. Of course, they came out with a princess set where the zoos can dance together in the ballroom, and you've got to be kidding me. Not only that, but they came out with Zhu Zhu babies. These toys were not battery powered, but had a little metal ball under them and wore little diapers. This resulted in sets that included the robotic zoos, being able to push around the babies in a carriage, and once again, genius. Those were the Zhu Zhu babies I remember, but in later releases, the babies were redesigned to be either standing or in a crawling position, and it seems like this design choice was made to match the cartoon design the franchise went with. But before we get into that, we have to get into Kung Zu, which was the boy-targeted sub-series. Kung Zu's theme was military, ninja, and samurai zoos battling one another. Wave 1 of the special forces included Rock-O, Stonewall, Sergeant Surge, and Rivet. The ninja group consisted of Azur, Thorn, Draco, and Yama, and the samurais KZ, Goslar, Siege, W5, and Sphinx. I actually really like these designs, and this is one of the only boy spin-offs I see as worthy of being its own series apart from Zhu Zhu Pets. Anyway, some notable sets from Kung Zu include the Battle Arena, Samurai Training Ground, the Special Forces Missile Attack Tower, and you kind of get the gist. The sub-series even had an entire unreleased sub-line called Kung Zu Monsters, but I talked all about that in my Lost Media video. Please don't kill me for mentioning that video again. So if you're interested in that, you should go watch that. Back to Zhu Zhu Pets, of course they got their own movie, Quest for Zoo, along with 2 unreleased films that, again, are mentioned in my Lost Media video. There were actually quite a few Zhu Zhu Pet games as well, with 7 of them on the Nintendo DS and 1 of them on the Nintendo Wii. As wholesome as the franchise was, they actually found themselves in a pretty big safety scare in December of 2009. It started when a consumer group called Good Guide claimed there could be a concerning amount of antimony, a hazardous chemical that can cause vomiting and heart and lung problems when digested or inhaled. The claim was targeted at none other than Mr. Squiggles himself, supposedly being the only zoo with this issue. Poor guy, he did nothing wrong. However, it turns out Good Guide's testing technique is not even recognized by the US Consumer Product Safety Commission, so although they offered their apologies for comparing their technique to federal standards, Good Guide did feel like their report was accurate according to their methods. However, Mr. Squiggles and all the Zhu Zhu Pets were deemed safe right in time for the holidays. Back to our timeline, Zhu Zhu Pets were sadly discontinued in 2013 when the craze died down and sales began to decrease. However, they weren't done yet. In 2015, there were plans for a reboot with a whole new design for the zoos we know and love. But these designs were scrapped in favor of an even newer design that we wouldn't see until 2017. And personally, I hate it. I mentioned this before, but although I'm not super crazy about the 2015 reboot design, I would have taken it over the 2017 design, but this was done to match the toys to the designs of their new TV show that aired on Disney Channel in 2016 called The Zhu Zhus. That makes 2 of my favorite toy lines completely botched to match a series that literally nobody asked for. This led to its discontinuation again in 2018 due to low sales. Just when we thought it was over, the franchise has been revived once again in the year 2024, with their first release being Zhu Zhu Aquarium. This release is, of course, fish-themed, with sharks, clownfish, stingrays, and whales. As much as I do love this concept, I just have so much nostalgia with the hamsters, and I just love hamsters, so maybe I'm a little biased. But it seems like they're going to be using different themes for each release, or I hope so. So hopefully one day we will see Zhu Zhu Pet hamsters again. I would love to hear what you guys think. Well, that's about it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment below if any of these toys got taken away from you in school. I'll see you next time. Bye!